So here I find myself trapped in a dark, cold room, a barrier between 50 so people and lunch and no jokes. So I am actually an Englishman, but I am also a 10-year resident of North Carolina. Throughout the presentation, you'll start to pick that up if you have a keen sense of hearing, but it has to be keen. My name is Kevin Duffy, and as the big whiteboard says, I am a global vice president with a company called Kepner-Tregoe. You would never name a company Kepner-Tregoe, so those are the two people who founded our organization. And my colleague up here is a fellow Brit who actually lives there, and that's Ian Rowledge, and he is a director of a partner organization that we are working very closely with by the name of Lineview Organizations. So our pre-lunch special today is a presentation on the subject of optimizing manufacturing OEE on production and filling lines. And it's going to be a two-part presentation that represents kind of how our partnership works. What we'd like to do is a couple of things really. Share some of the learnings that we've got, and then some of the things that we've learned as an organization along the way in the years that we've been in business, and talk about how we're using this technology to help our client organizations, then show you some examples at the end of it. So by way of a little agenda here, we'll give you a little short introduction to our organizations, talk about what our goal is as a partnership and some of the things that we're trying to do to help organizations get better. Share some of the experiences, some of the things that we've seen along that journey, and then start to hone in on what we think is the core of improving OEE on manufacturing and filling lines, which is really solid data-driven problem solving. And then we'll take that data-driven problem solving and look at how it's being implemented with clients on lines with some graphic and somewhat animated results, including an industrial Blair Witch video, which we'll look at the end. Okay, so this is, like all companies that have been around for a long time, we have a pretty diverse client base in FMCG. My company, Kepner-Tregoe, is just about 52 years old this year. Our genesis was in the area of problem-solving, decision-making, and over that time frame, we've touched about 15 to 16 million managers through some of our training programs. And just to help me a little bit, could anybody who knows KT in any way, could you just raise your hand a wee bit? Okay, so maybe 10, 15 people. So what we do is that we have, over the years, we've developed processes for risk analysis, for problem solving, root cause analysis, decision making, project management, and strategy. And over the years, we've evolved those processes into application models that we implement within client organizations to get a business result. So we operationalize them in the context that the client needs them. Personally, I actually began my manufacturing life as a packaging engineer. I spent 10 years in food can manufacturer in the UK and there and after around the world. For the old people in the room, I used to work for Carno Metal Box back in the day. And to give some indication of my age, I used to make soldered beverage cans, so that'll give you some idea how long ago that was. Ian also is a manufacturing guy with 12 or so years FMCG experience. Before 8 years ago, setting up this organization, Lineview Solutions, to provide operational managers with better information on the plant and the processes. The reason that we came together was that we felt that what we had here was an equation where if we added 1 and 1, we could get 3 by having a robust problem solving and good information. So that's a little bit about where we are and where we're coming from. And that's our goal, very simply, to get rapid, but not just spots of improvement, but sustainable information for our clients and on their lines by having good data to push up their OEEs. And I guess there's a mix of people in the room. There's some people with a lot of manufacturing background, but also maybe some people in the science area that maybe have less. OEE is a metric. Okay? It measures how much you can do and what you have at the end of it. Despite being a universal standard, it's not particularly measured consistently in organizations. Frankly, I don't care. It should do what a metric does. It should provide some information about where you are so you can make some decisions about where you want to be, and it should be used consistently. If it's not doing that, you should really challenge whether it's the right metric for you. Some experiences that we've had along the way in helping organizations improve is you can equip people with the best tools and the best processes, but unless they have good information to input into those processes, you can teach them lean, you can teach them KT problem solving, you can put in the best operating systems the plant can have, but unless they've got good quality, timely data, then they are not going to maximize those systems. And when we work with organizations solving problems, the biggest barrier that we have is the integrity of the data that we're trying to put into our problem-solving models. You can train people in the technical skills that they need to do the work. You can give them good problem-solving tools, good continuous improvement tools. But if you put them in a bad process, 99 times out of 100, that process will win and they won't reach their potential. I've operated in my career, from production engineer to VP in manufacturing companies. I have spent a ton of money on technology and systems that were going to make my life better. I don't recall one that really did, to be honest. And one of the reasons was that a lot of the organizations that I work for, we treated the technology as being the solution. And it never was. And making technology work, to make it work effectively, it really needs to be married with the people, the skills, and the processes that are around to really, really leverage it. That poor information is one of the, at least in my view, one of the killers of continuous improvement programs. Certainly I started work when I was 16 as an apprentice engineer, and I'm 51 today. And the last 10 years, I have seen more initiatives in manufacturing and operations than at any other point in time. From supply chain, through manufacturing, through distribution, in the conversion space alone, TPM, Lean, Six Sigma, root cause analysis, business process engineering. Many organizations are doing 3 or 4 of those programs in tandem, when each one of itself is probably a lifetime's work if done properly. When you have people who are already busy doing the day jobs, trying to continuously improve with poor information about what they're trying to do, we see that as being one of the biggest wastes that an organization can create. It destroys value, and it destroys the program. And the final point of our learn is that I'm sure you're all familiar. I mean, in today's world, there's never, ever been as much information as there is now, compared to 5 years ago. The speed that data comes at you, the volume that data comes at you. And the problem is, very often, we spend so much time analyzing that data that actually becomes the bottleneck in the improvement process. One thing that we see in organizations that make continuous improvement and operational gains better than others is that information is rapidly available and rapidly distributed in a format to the people closest to the plant or operation that is using it. They get the most bang for that buck. So data-driven problem solving is very much a system with 3 components. component that we talked about in the last slide really focuses on information. And the system element there is around providing that fast, accurate, real-time information so people can set the right kind of priorities. There's also the people component. And the people component is about two things. It's about having the right people in place and the right people having the technical knowledge. And that globally is perhaps the biggest issue that faces industry today. In North America, in the next 10 years, 73 million man-years, or 73 million people, and all those years of tribal knowledge, depending on how the stock market works, are going to leave the workplace. Replacing that technical knowledge today, where complex systems of manufacturing exist, is going to be a massive challenge. But if you don't have that, if organizations don't address that, then with good information and good problem-solving processes, they won't get a good result. The third dimension of this model is really concerned with the processes, the operational processes, the good manufacturing daily disciplines, like reporting, like shift handover, like good problem-solving meetings, like people having solid processes that work to help them resolve the problems that their operations present to them every day, the right tools and techniques. One of our company's specialities is the area of problem solving and root cause analysis. Just as an example, let's take a look at this model here and explore how those areas of information and people impact the process of effective problem solving. And effective problem solving really has 6 core tenets. Problem identification, so you need systems to flag the fact that something's gone wrong. This may seem trite, but I think, based on my years doing what I do and working with organizations who solve problems, the biggest reasons, the single biggest cause why a problem doesn't get solved is nobody knew it happened. Either because of the way that the information on the process is captured or the interval on which it's captured. So information is key to that. If you look at the area of once you know you have a problem and specifying a problem, information is absolutely key to enable problem solvers to specify it correctly in the 4 dimensions of a problem. What the problem is, what component, machine, process is affected with what deviation or fault. When that problem happened, when in the line, the life cycle, and the periodicity since that problem occurred again. Where it happened, in terms of on the line, on the product that's being made, etc. And finally, the size of that product. What's happening with it? What's the trend? All dependent on enabling a problem solver to build up a specification of effects from which they can use their technical knowledge to come up and hypothesize possible causes for that problem. And that, again, is where the importance of technical knowledge really, really comes to play. When a possible cause is identified, people with good technical knowledge can come up with tests and measures and trials to prove that before they take an action on a plant or a process, that they're actually doing the right thing. With good technical knowledge and a good process, they can evaluate alternative solutions to that product, for that problem, and select the most appropriate one. And then as we go through the implementation phase, information is critical to give us feedback on how effective that solution that we put in place is really, what impact it's really having on our process or line. So again, these are very, very important single elements, but they are in fact a system. And one of the things that we always advise the people that we work with is that you periodically and routinely scan the system to make sure it's like any system, it's only as strong as its weakest component, and it's in equilibrium. And the things that you're doing to improve what you do reflect the areas that need to be worked on in those 3 spheres. There is, however, another area, because sometimes even if you get that right, it's not necessarily a guarantee that your organization will improve and get a better result. So here's a little kind of audience participation question. So if you could, just shout out in the darkness. In your experiences where you've tried to improve operational efficiency or OEE, what has been perhaps the biggest challenge that you faced in doing that? Any suggestions from the floor? Approval of change. Okay. Any other offers? Priorities. Okay. Sorry, there's somebody else over here said something. Not quite sure. Information. Okay. Yeah. All certainly play a part in being barriers. One of the biggest things that we see out there is that. Sorry. I don't know. How do I make this go backwards? Good performance. If people think they're okay, it's very hard to get them to take the actions to move them to the next level. It's kind of like the Good to Great book. Most of you people, I mean, we got the list. We know who's here. There are some exceptionally good companies here. But a lot of them don't achieve what they can because they're already pretty good. So one of the things that we see as being characteristics of well-led organizations is the leaders may have to create what we call a burning platform to make people get up and move to a different place. Okay? And there are different kinds of needs and situations where leaders can do that. One is on the graph to the left, your left, is that a leadership team will come in and it will see a level of performance that nobody's really troubled with, but it was never close to the level that they purchased the asset for or its full potential. The other, of course, is when there's been an event in time where the actual performance of the asset, plant, or process deviated strongly. It's far less than what you need it to be, and you need to get it back up there. And if you're in an organization that's in this situation, one of the things that we've seen good leadership teams do, if there isn't a felt need to do anything radical or do something a little bit quicker, is create one. And one of the reasons, one of the methods that organizations have used to do that is by putting in a very goal-driven system of stretch goals and followed up very, very closely with their operational teams. So just bringing that all together into one graphic. If we have good information, good being clean, on time, accurate, we put it into a solid process, and within that solid process we have good, capable people who have good technical knowledge and good problem-solving skills, where a leadership is encouraging change and creating the need for change, then our probability and possibility of improving that OEE is as high as it possibly can be. OEE is about setting goals and achieving targets. Data-driven problem solving is about setting targets and pursuing OEE. Without information, essentially what we're doing, we're shooting in the dark. Okay? If we give people good information, we give them a laser to focus on the problem. If we combine that with good technical knowledge and process skills, we can help them aim faster and act more quickly. The danger of not having good processes is, and we don't get the information fast enough, is the target moves. And very often when a target moves and we don't act quickly, we get more problems and more issues to chase. Okay, each element is really vital because it is a system. When we look at an organization that has excellent information and accurate information, that it's fast, that it's on time, that it's presented to the right people in the right way, what we see is an organization that has the correct focus. When that condition doesn't exist, we see as I mentioned earlier, some of the problems that you get with a CI program is that there's a lot of effort being spent by people working on the wrong problem. And the wrong problem doesn't mean it has no effect, but it might not be the right problem for the biggest need of the business at that point in time. In the previous presentation, there was mention of methodologies using to set and prioritize projects. Typically, this information would sit into a prioritization matrix where the areas that are key to the business that must be addressed first would feed into. Robust processes. Robust processes look like disciplines that are followed every day that meet the needs of the business at that point in time. A good process, the characteristics of a good process are that it's accurate in terms of that it does what it's supposed to do. Somebody's measuring it to constantly keep an eye on it, and somebody's managing it. One of the problems today that you see with so much change is that there are so many processes left in organizations that are redundant or not doing what they're supposed to do. And process overload is a considerable barrier to effective change. If you have that, you have a consistent and stable organization or plant or line performance. If those are not in place, what you're really relying on are your experienced hero operators to get the plant up and running and keeping it running well. And those are the people that, typically are going to go soon as well also, which, again, reinforces the situation. Then, of course, capable people. And I'll beat this to death because I think it's the biggest issue for industry today, is technical knowledge first and foremost, and good process skills to resolve the issues that your plant line process presents. If they have that, you'll have rapid resolution. If not, you'll put them in a position where they can't solve problems, and that really destroys teamwork. We see that in so many organizations where people are given a process because they're doing TQM or they're doing 5S or whatever it is they're doing at that point in time, and because they don't have technical knowledge, they'll come up with a solution, but the solution that they come up with is suboptimal because they don't have the technical knowledge to do the right thing. And I had a very old colleague who's no longer with us anymore that problem solving without technical knowledge, one of the outputs that you probably see is consensus of the ignorant. Okay? And in the world of leadership, good leadership in this model create a need for change, they set clear goals, and they encourage people to do the right thing. They have a direction. So some crude science, as I bring my little portion of this presentation to a close. And again, I'm not asking anybody to call anything out here, but in your minds, if some of the characteristics of a good performing organization or the things that I just mentioned, just run through your minds where you might be on a continuum of 1 to 10. The stuff that I talked about being mastery and the other end being apprentice. Just average them up across the 4 scores. And again, in our world of crude science, this is kind of what we see. If you've got a score greater than 8, you're probably running OEEs. If you're measuring them correctly and you're not torturing the numbers to do the right thing and that kind of stuff, you're probably pretty close to being a world-class operation on that facility. 6 to 7, you'd be in the 70 to 85 range. 5 to 6, 55 to 70. And an average of 5 or less is really typical of an organization that's beginning its continuous improvement or OEE improvement journey as a general rule of thumb. So bringing that into the food manufacturing space, and we'll pick up now with some more technical examples, is generally OEE is determined from the critical machine on a production line, and that is the slowest machine, the production bottleneck. In the FMCG world, it's normally the asset that's most expensive also, so the filler on a filling line would be an example of that, and it's the one that you want to be utilized most in your production operation. Any loss in the manufacturing system, the conveying systems, the ancillary machines, the packaging machines that stop the critical machine, slow it down, stop it feeding, are the losses that we are primarily interested first and foremost. If there are other losses on the ancillary equipment, unless you're going to hurt somebody, or unless they're causing you a significant product or conformance loss, they are, in improving OEE, not the primary areas that we would focus on. So what I'll do now is I'll pass you over to Ian, and Ian will pick up this message in the practical examples that we've got.
Thank you, Kevin. So as Kevin has really tackled and covered off the importance of good information, processes and capable people surrounded by a felt need. And really what I want to do is share with you from a practical point of view the application of that in food manufacturing. Good information for us, the best information we're aware of at the moment for understanding food manufacturing is OEE, and that uses 3 losses in order to understand if you've got a 50% OEE, what's the 50% loss? Because a loss helps you determine where you should focus your actions. And OEE uses quality, performance and availability as the 3 core losses, and then each of those is split down again. And when you understand where your losses are, you can then use that to prioritize what you want to work on. So for example, if your biggest loss is in performance or minor stops, one category within performance, you'd use KT, problem analysis and root cause analysis to understand what's going on there, and you'd fix that problem. Or if it was in planned downtime through some changeovers or product changes, then you'd use things like quick changeovers or SMED as an application. So when you understand this information, it helps you understand which techniques to use, which then leads to a reduction in loss, which then goes to improve OEE. The best information you can get is automated, real-time, accurate information. A really good example of that is LineView. And we just wanted to give you a bit of a demo of a system that provides automatic data. So normally I'd be up here controlling that for you, but I've got someone at the back who's going to help me do that. So what you can see here is the LineView system. And the key thing about LineView is that it provides you with information around the whole system. A production line is a very complex flow, and there are many different machines all linked together by different conveyors. And understanding the whole process is what allows you to make good quality decisions. This system we're seeing here is a simulation of a production line. It's a PET line that produces 2-litre product, and it can produce a pallet of products in about 2 minutes. The line is about 400 metres long and would cost around $30 million to purchase the line. On this system, there's a colour coding. And what you can see on the screen on the top right, there's when the colour is green, it's saying it's running. That is the only time when the machines are running. And then the light blue, the dark blue and the red are all when the machine's stopped. Light blue is because it's lack or it's waiting product. Dark blue is because it's in build back. And red is stopped for internal reasons. So very, very quickly and clearly, this system shows at this point in time the palletizer is stopped and the filler is running. Filler's green and the palletizer's red. It's also possible to check out what's happening over a time period by clicking on the time entry system. And when you do that, you can select a time period to look at and then calculate that and retrieve the information. So if we close that, what you can see on the screen now is the current OEE is 79.2 on this production line. It's all in real time. You can analyse the data from last week, last shift, whichever time period you like. To understand what's really going on, the next screen you'd look at is a loss analysis screen. And without being a scientist or an engineer, very, very quickly you can see that the current loss, the biggest loss, is the labeler 1. This information is shown in 6 loss categories, and it helps you understand your speed losses, your planned downtime, your quality losses, breakdowns and minor stops. The key point about this screen is that the system is monitoring the whole production line, and in real time it's identifying the loss to the critical machine. And this is an absolutely key point, that to improve OEE, you might go and fix a machine that's troubling you, but actually the impact that machine is having on the overall line may be negligible. So this causal downtime is a key factor in order to make improvement. And if we want to investigate that further, we can go onto the status screen. And on this is really the DNA of the line. This is what's happening across all the machines at all times, and allows any users to investigate that. We've got a new color code on there, which is white. And if I say that white is now representing this machine is now affecting the critical machine, you don't have to be a scientist to work out that labeler 1 is your biggest area of focus. But also you'd notice that the palletizer 2 is a problem machine. But actually what you'll notice on the screen is that there's no white, or very little white, on there. So you could go ahead and spend $10,000 on fixing the palletizer, but the net result on the OEE would be negligible. Once you go on the label and you want to understand it better, you would then move into to that machine screen. So you move back to the main screen and look at the labeler 2 in this situation, and when you click on that, you can then identify the root causes and some of the symptoms on that machine. This system is completely real-time, it's fully automated, and there's no operator input required. And our experience shows that in order to get the best, most accurate data, that's the best way to go. So if we move back from there into the presentation, you'll notice, back into the presentation, Alt-Tab. Perfect. Thank you very much. So the system is also complemented by a reporting tool, and that reporting tool allows you to identify and trend and summarize the information by line, by shift, by team, product, pretty much however you want to cut the information. And by having this tool, what it allows you to do, the real-time system helps you identify here and now what are you going to do to fix the problems in shift. What this reporting tool allows you to do is identify what projects you're going to work on, what improvement groups are you going to form. And you can do that again using 6 loss analysis, trended history, or machine analysis. And the machine analysis allows you to do things like mean time between failure, machine efficiency, and really this is what helps drive the improvement teams. It allows them to identify the biggest areas they want to work on, and then it helps them identify if the improvement actions they're taking are having the effects they want. When we implement this system, we like to compile both. We've now got really good accurate data, and our experience shows that by combining tactical actions with strategic actions, we're going to get the most rapid performance improvement. On a tactical level, this is within the shift, hour by hour, shift by shift, short interval control. We create team meetings that happen, they're 5 minutes long. They use that to identify the current biggest loss in the last 4 hours, identify what they're going to do and take action immediately. And this process is happening 6 times a day on every single production line. And this creates a stable platform, stable performance. On the strategic side, we're taking the reporting tool, we're providing summary data, trended data. We're using that to identify the biggest areas of loss, and then we're using that to form teams to reduce losses in those areas. On the tactical level, the real-time system provides our loss to a critical machine. We then use that to prioritise where the biggest losses are, use problem analysis and risk analysis, and then resolve those issues. And that leads to very stable performance. On the strategic level, we use a reporting tool. We're getting summary and trended data. We know we're working on the right things because we're looking at months' worth of data. And then we're applying focus groups and teams to really nail those problems and fix them properly. And doing that leads to step changes in OEE. And also we get long-term sustainable improvements. Using this information, normally teams would form for 6 to 12 weeks and monitor their progress using the tools. When we do an implementation, it's a typical implementation. The people side, we start off by bringing champions into the streams of improvement. And we bring 2 or 3 champions in and they work on a project for 2 or 3 months. We upskill those people to have the right tools, understand the information, and then we give them the right processes in order to solve the problems. They work in specific areas on improvement projects based on the information, and then we combine that with implementing ongoing new processes, short interval control, high quality shift handovers, 5S, battle laps, the kind of things that we know that by implementing those and having them on an ongoing basis, this is going to lead to ongoing improvement. And it makes the improvement sustainable, which is absolutely key. When you think about what these 3 elements are covering, really it's about changing people's behaviours. Because if we don't get a shift in behaviour, you're just going to get the same results. So by having the good information, the processes with the right people, you get a shift in behaviour, and that shift in behaviour is what creates your improvement. The results we've seen from this. So this is an example of a 6-line bottling plant where line view and KT processes were built into the way of working. In that time, a 20% OEE increase happened over 24 months, which saved in excess of $2 million per year. The site is an ongoing improvement and it's still getting even better. It can also be used for specific projects. And this is a specific improvement project that happened in a Coca-Cola plant, and the teams used real-time and historic information combined with problem analysis in order to get some really good results. And I'm not going to make an apology, it is very much a home video movie, but the team was so proud of the results they got that they made this movie themselves, which is what it's really all about. So if we have a quick look at this movie. Quite Blair Witch it is.
To let it go, but if you never try, you'll never know just what you were.
It's the team using line view to show the improvements it was making.
Lights will guide you home.
So, in conclusion, if you want to get really high success in improving OEE, have this felt need, a leadership team that's going to create a gap in improvement and requirement improvement, combine good information with good processes and capable people, and those results are almost guaranteed. And very conveniently, we've got about 7 seconds left for questions. So if there are any questions, we'd be very happy to answer them.